Lockpicking in Starfield is quite a bit different than Bethesda's usual formula. Today I'll be explaining the basics of this new system and how you can try to not waste any digipicks while going after the Cyber Jockey achievement. Now, let's get to hunting. Bethesda's been going with the same lockpicking system for their past few games, and most other games have at this point copied their homework. But now they've brewed up something a bit more complicated and a lot cooler. Now the first thing you'll need to even get started lockpicking is a digipick. These can be obtained by purchasing them at general stores and cities or just by looting them. Generally you're going to be able to find plenty of these sitting on tables, shelves, or by safes. They seem to really like giving you one anytime there's a safe to unlock, so you shouldn't have that hard of a time to find them. You'll even occasionally find them sitting on the bodies of pirates you kill, so make sure that you're checking those bodies as well. Once you've got a digipick and something that's locked, you can get into the lockpicking minigame. Of course, you can only attempt to pick locks that are at or below your skill level, meaning you'll only be able to unlock novice level locks at first, but gain additional difficulties with each level you put into the security skill. This also gets you additional tricks and abilities to make lockpicking even easier, but we'll go over that in a more advanced guide later. Now getting into the minigame, we have our lock wheel in the center and our digipick patterns on the right, as well as our number of digipicks in our inventory right above those. Our lock wheel will have a number of rings with notches missing in the rings. Our goal is going to be to use the patterns on the right to fill in these missing notches. But there are two catches. Well, I guess kind of three. We can only work on the outside ring until that is filled, and then we can move on to the inside ring. And when we use one of the patterns, it will no longer be an option to be used in the future. That means you can very easily run into scenarios where you used the wrong pattern for the wrong spot and have to start over, or undo, and waste extra digipicks. The patterns can also only be used if there's a gap for every one of the notches to go into. They have to be a perfect match or they can't be used. So with the basic rules in place, we can go ahead and solve this one. Our top priority is going to be to cycle through the patterns on the right and figure out exactly where each one is going to fit. But don't slot any of the patterns until after we've confirmed where they all are going to go. Pro tip, the patterns retain their positioning as you move through them, so you can plan it all out ahead of time, and then go through and confirm them all once you've already solved it. So starting with this first one, we'll move it around and see if it fits on the outer ring. It doesn't, so we'll start looking at the inner ring. It looks like it would slot in right here, so we'll leave that for now. Moving on to the second pattern, we can check if it will work in the outer ring. It looks like it could fit right here, so we're going to leave it there for now. Same thing with the third pattern, we'll see where it can fit. Looks like nowhere on the outer circle, but it looks like it can go in the inner circle and fit into the notches where our other inner circle pattern didn't go. Perfect. Now, for the last pattern, we just need it to fit in the outer circle on the left side. Yep, looks like it does, so this lock ended up being fairly straightforward. It'll be like this with a lot of the novice locks, but as you get into the harder ones, it starts to get a little bit more complicated. Then with all the positions figured out, we can go ahead and start slotting in each one to unlock this lock and take all of the valuables inside. And of course, as you get into the advanced and harder locks, you're going to start being introduced with some patterns that aren't actually going to be needed, and then even an additional ring with the expert locks. And I'll be following this guide up with an advanced lockpicking guide that introduces the harder difficulty locks and the perks that you get from the security skill, linked on the screen and down in the description.